It doesn't work anymore, Gavin. The hair slicker and the vet, all that doesn't work. Every once in a while, you put on your Abercrombie and Fish work clothes and you go out by that nightmare train yard by the port of LA. Remember where they loot everything, and then he picks up his little gloves, or he goes to the Paradise Fire and he digs a little ash and puts it in a bucket or something. It doesn't work anymore.
Historian and political firebrand Victor Davis Hanson has launched a fierce attack on Gavin Newsom's quiet push toward becoming the Democratic presidential nominee. And let's just say, his words were anything but gentle. Hanson didn't hold back, and his brutal critique left nothing standing.
Total failure. You destroyed the most successful, most beautiful state in the world, and the only reason it's even viable is because people unlike you, Pat Brown, who was a Democrat, but he was a good governor, Ronald Reagan, George Dicmasian, Pete Wilson, they built the state, and you're living on their work, and you're trying to destroy it, but they were so, I don't know, so industrious and so imaginative that it's very hard to destroy in just your 32 years as a public official to destroy it, but you're managing.
Newsom seems to be gaining support, with more Democrats slowly drifting into his corner. But Victor Davis Hanson isn't impressed in the slightest. His analysis is sharp, bold, and completely unfiltered. What he says might shock you. And as always, smash that subscribe button and tap the bell so you never miss another fiery breakdown like this.
Is part of this that voters are so fed up with what they see on the streets of their cities that as a politician, you've got to clean up those streets?
Well, that's generally the case, but that's not the inspiration for Care Court.
But is there a political factor in this for you?
As an electoral strategy, I'm turned out. That's not the issue. The politics here is compassion. The politics is purpose.
Before we jump into Hanson's full clip, there's an important moment that sets the stage. Without it, you won't fully grasp just how intense his takedown really is. In the earlier clip, Newsom was questioned about his shiny new Care Court plan, which claims to fix California's homelessness problem. He was directly asked if the plan was just a political stunt meant to boost his image. But in classic Newsom fashion, he danced around the question with fancy words and long explanations that answered nothing. It was the usual performance. Big speeches, zero clarity. Thankfully, the interviewer refused to let him off the hook.
You may be termed out here, but does cleaning up the streets of California factor into a potential presidential run?
I'm never going to overpromise that in the short run. I mean, we are struggling in this state.
You're not answering my question.
No, housing and homelessness.
People suggest that cleaning up California streets could be part of a larger political strategy for you.
I think that's table stakes. I think that's foundational responsibility of anyone that gets into my position, day job. It's not about some grand ambition. Absolutely not.
Is that a yes or a no?
That was a never-ending response to your question.
Credit goes to the interviewer for finally pushing Newsom into admitting, even slightly, that he was dodging the question with polished word salad. That's no small task. Like many top Democrats, Newsom has mastered the skill of sounding impressive while saying almost nothing. It's all dramatic language, trendy buzzwords, and just enough moral flair to keep supporters cheering. Meanwhile, real issues like homelessness, mental health, and broken infrastructure get ignored. These leaders focus more on public image than actual results. And Newsom, he's the undisputed king of fancy nonsense. That's when Victor Davis Hanson steps in with a blistering critique.
Remember, as I said earlier, no one person is more responsible for California's decline than Gavin Newsom, because 8 years a lieutenant governor, 8 years a mayor, and he will be 8 years governor. So he'll have 32 years in the Bay Area, Bay Area, not LA, is now with Silicon Valley money and left-wing, but that's what runs California.
Hanson doesn't pull any punches. He claims Gavin Newsom has caused more damage to California than most people ever imagined. According to him, Newsom hasn't simply mismanaged the state, he's overseen a slow-motion disaster. After more than 30 years in politics, what does Newsom really have to show for it? Homelessness has exploded, crime is rising, cities are falling apart, and streets resemble disaster zones. California, once a symbol of the American dream, is now seeing residents flee because of high taxes, crushing housing costs, and endless regulations. Yet through it all, Newsom smiles for cameras and boasts about progress while climbing the political ladder. Hanson's verdict is harsh but clear. If this is leadership, California deserves better.
He's more responsible, and he has been overseeing all the regulations that we're going to get rid of refineries, and he bullied them and bullied them and bullied them. You got to have the California Air Resources Board does this, and you have to have this blend, and you have to do that. And finally, they said, you know what? We're going to go somewhere else. You keep importing oil from the Saudis, and you're going to have to, import gas from Nevada or, I don't know, Arizona. Go ahead, and Texas. I don't know. But we're not going to do it anymore. And that whole Richmond corridor for Northern California, they're going to leave. And gas will go up to about $8 a gallon, and all the left-wing millionaires along the coastal corridor will be happy. But he's going to panic because they're going to look at that when he wants to run for president, and his Democratic primary rivals will bring it up.
Newsom didn't just drive oil companies out of California, pushing gas prices higher. He also helped strangle Hollywood. Yes, the man who claims to support creativity buried California's film industry under piles of red tape, heavy taxes, and virtue signaling rules. It's the same pattern every time. Attack success, overregulate it, then act surprised when it leaves. Filmmakers, exhausted by high costs and endless regulations, moved production elsewhere. Today, it's cheaper to fly entire crews overseas than to film in California. The state that once sparkled with movie magic has become a regulatory nightmare, and Newsom proudly held the shovel.
What's the price of gas? How many people have left California versus Florida? What's your tax rate versus ours? Here's how many people you have, and here's your budget, and here's how many people we have in our budget. And he's done all of that. And so, remember that line in Animal House where, what was that guy's name? I know everybody knows. Dean Wormel, or what? Wormer? He says to the
Dean Wormer.
Going through life fat, lazy, and ugly. Or is that what he says? Fat, ugly, and lazy is nowhere to go through life. I feel like somebody should say being incoherent, incompetent, and I don't know what else, corrupt, is no way to go through being a governor.
Hanson continues his verbal assault, calling Newsom corrupt, incompetent, and wildly inefficient. Newsom has controlled billions of taxpayer dollars, yet little has been accomplished. Take the California high-speed rail project. Nearly $13 billion spent, no finished stations, no working lines, and barely any track. Originally priced at $33 billion and scheduled for completion in 2020, it's now projected to cost over $100 billion and maybe finish in the 2030s. Construction crawls along painfully slow. Hanson's point is clear: wasting billions on a train to nowhere isn't leadership, it's reckless. If Newsom can't manage a rail line, how could he manage a country?
Because everything you've done, from high-speed rail to the tax rate at 13.3 to gasoline tax that you're now increasing, it's going to be high. It is the highest in the nation.
Hanson openly accuses Newsom of running California into the ground. Since taking office, he hasn't lifted the state, he's dragged it down. Infrastructure is falling apart, the economy struggles, debt is soaring, crime is rising, wildfires rage out of control. California, once the pride of the nation, has become a warning sign of failed leadership. Poor forest management and water policies helped fuel some of the worst wildfires in history. Under Newsom, chaos feels normal. Hanson's conclusion is simple: Newsom's record is a disaster, and it proves he has no business anywhere near the White House.
I remember going 3 or 4 years old. 4 years old. Yeah. That's your legacy. And the LA fire, the Aspen fire, the Paradise fire, all of that. You took paradise and you made it into purgatory. That's what you did. And then you, every once in a while, went to Napa wine tasting while people were trying to get a permit in LA, and you went to the French Laundry while you shut down everybody else. And you can't help but you're living in a $9 million house. Your wife has government contract.
This is why so many Americans fear Newsom would make a terrible president. Unlike King Midas, who turned things into gold, everything Newsom touches seems to decay. From collapsing infrastructure to crime and wildfire disasters, his record speaks loudly. Now, in what looks like a clear PR move, he's launched a podcast. Supposedly, it's meant to encourage dialogue, but most people see it as image polishing ahead of a 2028 presidential run. Voters aren't fooled. It looks like another vanity project designed to boost his profile.
You were a Nepo baby that got everything from the Getty family. And now you're kind of a character. He does that little neck thing. What is that? He goes back and forth with his neck. It doesn't work anymore, Gavin. The hair slicker and the vat, all that doesn't work. Every once in a while, you put on your Abercrombie and Fish work clothes and you go out by that nightmare train yard by the port of LA. Remember, where they loot everything, and then he picks up his little gloves.
Newsom isn't some self-made political genius. He's a textbook example of elite privilege. His rise is deeply tied to powerful connections, especially the wealthy Getty family. His father was close to Gordon Getty, and Gavin grew up inside elite circles. That's not a story of hard work, it's one of opportunity handed on a silver platter. Despite massive failures, he continues climbing. Homelessness worsens, crime grows, wildfires rage. Yet he keeps smiling for cameras and dreaming of the Oval Office. The most shocking part isn't his failures, it's how far he's gotten anyway.
He digs a little ash and puts it in a bucket or something. It doesn't work anymore. It's just a total failure. You destroyed the most successful, most beautiful state in the world, and the only reason it's even viable is because people unlike you, Pat Brown, who was a Democrat, but he was a good governor, Ronald Reagan, George McMason, Pete Wilson, they built the state, and you're living on their work, and you're trying to destroy it, but they were so, I don't know, so industrious and so imaginative that it's very hard to destroy in just your 32 years as a public official to destroy it, but you're managing.
By nearly every measurable standard, Gavin Newsom's time as governor has been a failure. Fortunately, his term is nearly over, but instead of stepping aside, he's aiming for the presidency. Here's some blunt advice for Democrats: do not make him your 2028 candidate. His record practically hands the election to Republicans. Soaring homelessness, rising crime, uncontrolled wildfires, people fleeing the state, and billions wasted on failed projects paint a brutal picture. If this is how he runs California, imagine the damage he could do nationally. Democrats need results, not polished speeches and empty promises. Newsom's leadership record is a warning sign, full of privilege, failure, and spin. If Democrats want to win in 2028, they'd better look elsewhere. With Newsom leading, it's not just risky, it's political disaster. And that wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed our spicy take, hit like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.